Okay, so welcome to you all. Welcome to you all. I would just like to, give you a brief introduction about NABARD. NABARD is a All India institution, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. It was formed in 1982 by an act of parliament. Earlier, it was part of Reserve Bank of India. Two functions of Reserve Bank, that is refinance functions of the then Agri Refinance, ARDC, and agricultural credit function of Reserve Bank was combined, and it was formed to NABARD. The NABARD is fully owned by Government of India. It has a paid-up capital of 15,080 crore and an authorized capital of 30,000. Our balance sheet size as on 31st March 21 was 6.5 lakh crore. So NABARD, its head office is in Mumbai. We have 31 regional offices and 413 district offices. There are 3 training establishments, Lucknow, Bolpur, Mangalore, which provide training to rural financial institutions, not only in India, but also to various countries in Asia Pacific. Our mission is to promote sustainable and equitable agriculture and rural prosperity through effective credit support, related services, institutional development, and other innovative initiatives. And our mandate is to facilitate credit flow for promotion and development of agriculture, small-scale industries, cottage and village industries, handicrafts, and other rural crafts. Support all other allied economic activities in rural areas, promote integrated and sustainable rural development, and secure prosperity of rural areas, as also for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. So you see, our mandate is quite vast. Basically, NABARD has, broadly speaking, 3 important functions. One is credit-related, credit functions. Second is developmental, and third one is supervisory. Under credit functions, we extend both refinance as well as direct finance to various entities. As NABARD is not into retail banking. We don't give loans to individuals. Our refinance is normally given to banks, NBFCs. When we say banks, it includes commercial banks, regional rural banks, cooperative banks, NBFCs, all such entities. And direct lending, we give normally to state governments, entities promoted by state governments like various corporations, marketing federations, cooperative federations, etc. So this is our credit functions. As regards developmental function, our developmental functions are normally grant-based. It covers almost the entire spectrum of farm sector, non-farm sector, allied activities. NABARD has got dedicated funds to support each and every sector of our society. Like, we have a dedicated fund for tribal development. We have a dedicated fund for watershed development. We have dedicated fund for microcredit innovation. We have a separate fund for promoting financial inclusion and financial technology. Then another dedicated fund for off-farm sector. So all these funds are essentially constituted out of our own profits and also from other inflows. So this is all about our, in general, about our developmental role. And as for supervisory role, NABARD conducts inspection of cooperative banks and regional rural banks on behalf of Reserve Bank of India. So that is about our supervisory role. Now, I'm sure almost all of you in CIARI especially are familiar with NABARD's farm sector role in NABARD, because we have been collaborating with CIARI for a long time. Still, I'll just try to, for those who do not know about NABARD's role. I'll just try to quickly summarize what do we do, what NABARD is doing for farm sector. Farm sector assumes importance because it contributes to around 14% of the economy, and it offers employment to a vast majority of our rural people. Major issues dealing with farm sector or with agriculture, or rather farmers, is that the size, the size of our farms are normally very fragmented. The average landholding size is just 1.1 hectare, because of which it does not offer any economy of scale to the farmers. They do not have any bargaining power. Their products are normally sold through middlemen. They do not have access to latest technology. The level of mechanization in most of the states is very low. These are some of the issues, concerning our farm sector. This picture would depict properly what are the issues. So you can see that all these issues are connected. When the farmer suffers from loss of income from his farm, it affects his health, it affects his family, it affects the society as a whole. We have seen in recent times a lot of farmer suicides and all. Essentially can be traced to these issues which we dealt with earlier. Now, as I told you earlier, we have certain dedicated funds for promoting farm sector. One is the Farm Sector Promotion Fund, FSPF it is called. Then we have the Watershed Development Fund, Tribal Development Fund. NABARD is also engaged in promotion of FPOs, that is Farmer Producer Organization. For that, we have a dedicated fund called PODF, Producers Organization Development Fund. Then Government of India has set up a fund called Producer Organization Development and Upliftment Corpus, that is called Produce Fund, in 2014, with the view of promoting 2,000 farmers producer organizations. But now that fund has been replaced by another scheme of Government of India, that is the Central Sector Scheme for promoting 10,000 FPOs. I think you will all be aware of that particular scheme. In addition to that, we have a fund for climate change, fund called Climate Change Fund, to address issues relating to climate change. NABARD is also the national implementing entity of Adaptation Fund. It is a fund constituted by United Nations Framework for Climate Change, UNFCCC, with the donations from various countries and also even private individuals and corporates. Then also the national implementing entity for National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. That is government. That is a fund constituted by Government of India to support adaptation measures to mitigate the effects of climate change. We are also the direct access entity of Green Climate Fund. This again is another fund which is managed by World Bank. Again, this is constituted under the aegis of UNFCCC with multilateral contributions from various countries. This Farm Sector Promotion Fund, FSPF, most of our collaboration with CARI is using this fund only. So this fund basically supports innovations in farm sector. Innovation can be either in case of new products, evolving new products, new processes in design. So we also give support for organic certification, and then traceability for farm sector products, patenting, developing new prototypes, etc. Second one is promotion of climate resilient agriculture. As we have seen earlier, climate change has a very deep impact on production and the productivity of agricultural sector. So to foolproof our agriculture from the effects of climate change, it is very essential to develop climate resilient agricultural practices, what is generally known as climate smart agriculture. So NABARD is engaged in that in promoting climate smart or climate resilient agriculture in a big way. This is essentially through promoting integrated farming, village seed banks, fodder banks, community nursery using ICT, that is information and communication technology, for giving advisories, like technology, like using mobile digital technology to give real-time advisory to farmers on market trends, and also on administering fertilizers, nutrients, etc. Collective farming, village resources, all these activities are covered. Then enhancing productivity of agriculture and allied sectors, that is promoting good varieties of seeds, livestock, fisheries, precision farming, polyhouse, etc. Then promotion of promotion of farmers collective, that is JLGs, joint liability groups, self-help groups, farmers, FPOs, farmers producer organizations, etc. See, when the farmers, when they deal as individual entities in the market and all, their bargaining power is very limited. Whereas if they come into groups, when they form a collective, their bargaining power improves vis-a-vis the market, vis-a-vis middlemen. So they'll be in a better position to negotiate or bargain with regard to inputs, not only inputs, but also with regard to their finished products vis-a-vis middlemen. So this is the very objective of promoting farmers collective. We also support marketing by developing supply chains for farm produce. These projects normally, these projects under farm sector are considered under a DPR, I mean direct project report mode. The eligible entities include ICAR, agricultural universities, KVKs, financing institutions, NGOs, voluntary agencies. Any of these entities can submit a project to NABARD under those activities or with objectives which we saw earlier in the earlier slide. The project period for FSPF projects are normally 2 to 3 years, and the quantum of assistance is normally 95% of the total expenditure, with a cap of 10 lakhs. Projects up to 10 lakhs are sanctioned by NABARD's regional office. And if the project cost is beyond 10 lakhs, then it will be sanctioned by our head office. The remaining 5% of the project cost will have to be covered by the implementing agency. So it need not be, the 5% can be covered by monetizing the human resource cost, or monetizing the infrastructure facilities offered by these institutions also. The eligible items include virtually any activity which is necessary for implementing this particular project. Can be cost of equipment, administrative and recurring cost, cost of staff, etc. Only ineligible items are capital expenditure, that is purchase of building, transport vehicles. Such items are not normally allowed under FSPF projects. However, there are certain exceptions depending upon project on a case-to-case basis. Up to a maximum of 40% of capital expenditure are permitted where some machinery is absolutely necessary. It is felt that this machinery is absolutely necessary or inevitable for completion of this project. So during 2021, 166 projects were sanctioned under DPR mode with a grant commitment of rupees 20 crores. This is an all India figure. In Andaman and Nicobar, we have around 26 projects running in collaboration with CIARI. And these projects cover almost the entire spectrum of agriculture, animal husbandry, fisheries, and the entire allied activities. few of our projects are, few of the projects worthy of naming here are the mushroom spawn production unit, or the lab which was set up in Kerry. Then the recently introduced terrace farming, which even attracted the attention of UT administration also. Then the micro hatchery unit for poultry. Then the mini feed mills. All of these have become very popular amongst the beneficiaries and the farmers. Yet another project for supporting farm sector initiative is called the capacity building for adoption of technology, normally called CAT. Our farmers basically they are not exposed to the best practices followed by research laboratories or research institutions or farmers innovative farmers in other parts of the country. So with a view to exposing these farmers in one area to this innovative or best practices followed by other farmers or institutions like KVKs, state agricultural universities, ICAR institutions, etc. We enable them to proceed on exposure visit to such institutions or farms. These are facilitated by NGOs, KVKs, even JLGs or SHGs, FPOs. Anybody can act as a facilitator for these for these visits. Normally, the duration of this visit is 1 to 3 days. That is excluding travel period, and the farmer group size should be 15 to 25 progressive farmers or agripreneurs. Only thing is at least 10% should be from SC/ST community. And NABARD, this exposure visit can be both intra-state as well as interstate. For intra-state visits, the limit NABARD support will be 1,37,000, and for interstate visit, it will be around 1,87,000. So any type of activity or any type of farm activity, agri extension service, dairy, integrated farming, organic farming, anything can be covered during this capacity building CAT visit. The models to draw assistance is that the concerned agency, implementing agency, will have to approach NABARD regional office with a proposal detailing the deliverables or the outcomes from this proposed visit. They will also have to submit a detailed report on completion of the visit, detailing the learnings or takeaways from this particular visit. During last year, we had supported 270 exposure visits for around 8,000 farmers across the country. Watershed Development Fund. See, water conservation and water preservation. This is one core area which has attracted attention of not only NABARD but all development scientists, state governments, etc. NABARD NABARD started the whole process of developing watershed in the 90s with support from KfW. It is a German financial institution offering support, multilateral funding agency. So the first such watershed project started in Maharashtra. So this project was found successful, and subsequently NABARD, along with support from Government of India, instituted a fund called Watershed Development Fund. This fund has a corpus of 200 crore, where 100 crore is donated by Government of India. The objective of Watershed Development Fund is a holistic development of the watershed, the area surrounding the watershed, to offer livelihood opportunities to the people living in watershed, to promote rainwater harvesting, soil conservation, regeneration of soil fertility, and judicious use of natural resources, etc. So far, we have sanctioned around 3,401 watershed projects across the country with a sanction with a grant assistance of 2,389 crore. Out of this, 1,914 projects have been sanctioned, and the area covered is around 23.43 lakh hectares. Watershed, the definition of watershed is that it refers to the area from where the water to a particular drainage system, like a river or a stream, comes from. You can just see this picture, the entire yellow marked area. This is the watershed, and the stream. As you can see, this is the drainage areas from where water flows into the stream. The watershed development projects, it has got these are the major components of the watershed development projects, like the area treatment, drainage line treatment, climate risk adaptation and mitigation, training and capacity building, livelihood activities, etc. So when we say area treatments, essentially we follow what is known as the ridge to valley technique, wherein the hilltops are treated first, then the slopes, and finally the valley. The last treatment will be meted out to the drainage lines. This is called the ridge to valley approach. Further, the entire area of the watershed will be subject to what is called as a net planning exercise, wherein each and every survey number of each and every farmer living in that watershed will be taken up for some kind of livelihood activities, development of livelihood activities. That is called net planning exercise. It is not, it will not suffice if we address only the ecological or water conservation, soil conservation issues. For the watershed area, we also have to address the livelihood aspects of people living in that area. That's why livelihood also is taken up along with other activities. There is also a component for training and capacity building of farmers living in those areas, as well as for the project implementing agency. Another key aspect of this climate risk adaptation of watershed is that these watersheds which have been developed will be subject to climate risk adaptation and mitigation measures. We'll just see in coming slides how it is done. This watershed development projects are normally in a watershed project, an area of around 1,000 hectares and covering around 200 to 500 families are selected. This area where one of the prerequisites is that the watershed selected, it should have a slope of at least 1%, and irrigated area should be less than 30%, or it should be below the average irrigated area irrigation potential of the state. Normally, we select a dry or drought-prone villages for treatment under watershed district. Priority districts as per composite index developed by the National Rainfed Authority, NRAA, are also given preference. This is one criteria adopted while selecting districts. This index, it is a composite index which has got two components. One is this livelihood index, and the other one is natural resources index. It is a matrix comprising again of various parameters based on which this district will be rated. And the higher the marks, the lower the the higher the marks, the lower the rating of the district. So such districts with higher ratings will be selected for treatment under this program. The implementation of watershed projects, it has got basically 3-4 phases. First one is selection of watershed. We saw how watershed will be selected. Then second one is selection of the project facilitating agency. Normally, NGOs or as KVKs or such agencies are selected for as PFAs. In case of NGOs, they are subject to rating by NABARD. We have certain rating tools for evaluating the performance of these NGOs, like they should have audited balance sheets for the past 3 years. They should not be blacklisted. They should have sufficient experience of operating in that particular watershed area. They should have people who have a technical knowledge of basic technical knowledge about promoting livelihood activities, group formation, and all such things. Then this first phase or the preparatory phase after selecting PFA, it includes awareness, conduct of awareness programs in the watershed. Then there is what is called as Shramdan. That is 4 days Shramdan is conducted in the common area in watershed. That means the people who are living in that watershed area, they have to contribute physical labor, either in repairing of some farm ponds or land leveling, land reclamation, some common activity which will be of useful to the community as a whole. So this Shramdan is insisted upon just to ensure that they are actually these farmers are keen on implementing this watershed, and they will have that ownership. When they contribute their own labor, they will have that sense of ownership to this project also. Once this Shramdan is done, normally these people are also taken on an exposure visit to some good working or completed watersheds to give them a feel of such projects, importance of benefits of such projects. Since these projects are participatory, community participation is essential. A village watershed committee will be formed in the beginning itself. This committee will consist of members from people living in this area. Minimum, I think around 9 people will have to be there with representation for women. At least 30% should be women, and even landless people also should be accommodated in this committee. This committee will maintain a watershed maintenance fund with contribution from people living in that area. That fund, they will have to make some annual contribution, I think 100 rupees or 150 rupees per acre or something. And these contributions, annual contribution, will create a corpus for maintenance of watershed and all other activities. I mean, maintenance of assets created under the project. Once this PFA and NABARD exits from the project site after completion. So after this preparatory phase comes the capacity building phase, where the livelihood activities will be undertaken. Livelihood activities are soil and water conservation, agriculture, livestock and fisheries, then microfinance and micro enterprise, health, sanitation and water preservation activities, etc. This will be taken up in the CBP phase. Next comes the full implementation phase. The CBP phase will be for 1 year. That will be done normally in around 50 to 100 hectares. It will be like in a miniature project. If the CBP phase is successful and if the community participation is robust, then it will be expanded to the entire watershed 1,000 hectares in the coming years. So this expanded phase is known as the full implementation phase. CBP phase has to be completed in 1 year, and the grant support is around 60,000 per hectare in plains and 17,500 hectare in difficult areas like Northeast, Andaman, Nicobar Islands, etc. During the full implementation phase, as I told earlier, the entire area will be covered. All the activities which were taken up during CBP phase will be extended to the entire area, whether it is soil conservation, water conservation, then income generation activities, everything will be extended to the entire area. This phase will last for a period of 4 years. During this period, before implementation of the FIP, that is full implementation phase, a detailed project report has to be prepared by the PFA, that is Project Facilitating Agency, and submitted to NABARD. Based on this only, this FIP, that is full implementation phase, will be sanctioned. During the full implementation phase, climate proofing of these activities will also be undertaken. Then here, the village watershed committee will be linked to the KVKs, state agricultural universities, for technology transfer. Then these members of the village watershed committee will be not only village watershed committee, at least one member from one family will be linked to banks. I mean, bank accounts will be open so that in future they can avail credit for developing their activities further. And all members will be issued soil health cards also. During this FIP, drainage line treatments also will be undertaken. That means the streams which will be running, the objective is to slow down the speed of this drainage so that this water percolates deep down and results in groundwater restoration of the area. So this can be done using gully plugs, check dams, construction of check dams, and such other techniques. So this drainage line will be treated during this last phase. This phase, the entire watershed project will last for around 5 to 6 years. It is a long duration project. The FIP phase itself will be for around 4 years. This is the unit cost for FIP. We saw that the unit cost for FIP phase is around 22,000 per hectare in plains and 25,000 per hectare in difficult northeastern areas, Andaman, Nicobar Islands, etc. So here you can just go through the unit cost for various activities, that is soil and water conservation, climate proofing, then livelihood, NGO management cost. The NGO who is implementing these projects will also be getting administrative cost, remuneration for their activities, capacity building and knowledge management, etc. This is the breakup of that 22,000 and 25,000 per hectare cost, which we mentioned earlier. We saw what are these activities which are taken up during CBP as well as FIP. Now, the climate proofing aspect. This climate proofing, it involves implementing efficient usage of water. That is, crop water budgeting means using technology like sprinkler or drip irrigation to conserve usage of water, optimize usage of water. Similarly, soil improvement measures based on soil testing. Nutrients, fertilizers will be supplied only on the basis of testing, and not just as it was done earlier, without any kind of testing of soil and all. Then promotion of sustainable natural resource management, climate smart farming practices, etc. Climate smart agriculture, when we say, it involves, construction of farm ponds, bunds, trenches, or any such practice which conserves soil moisture, usage of resilient seeds, farm implements, etc. This is very important because climate smart agriculture or climate proofing, it can ensure food security during times of climate change. Now, spring shed. This is an offshoot of watershed development program. In hilly areas, mountainous terrains, they have what is known as springs. Springs are naturally occurring water discharge structures. And the spring shed is the area surrounding these structures where rains fall. These are the recharge area for springs. The treatment for spring shed area will be exactly same as in the case of watershed. Even the costs are also, the unit costs are also same as that of the watershed area. See, these projects are normally implemented in states like Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Uttarakhand, and Himachal Pradesh and JK. Here, the treatable area will be around 100 hectares to 300 hectares per project, as against 1,000 hectares in case of WDF, that is watershed projects. As on March 31st, 2021, around 82 spring shed development projects have been sanctioned with an outlay of 16.40 crores. Out of this, around 7.13 crores has been disbursed. Means out of 16.40 crores sanctioned, 50%, more than or near about 50% has been utilized so far. Next is the Tribal Development Fund. Tribals constitute around 8.6% of our country's population. That is 8.6% of the total population. That is around 10.6 crores. They are spread across 94,000 villages in essentially in states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Gujarat, Assam, Rajasthan, Orissa, and in other states also. The tribals, essentially, they depend upon forest, on agriculture, on livestock for their sustenance. Now, so the issues faced by the tribals are reduced agricultural productivity due to various factors, reduced livestock productivity, then dwindling forest resources due to pillaging of forest resources. Inadequate infrastructure facilities like health, they do not have access to good communication, roads, health, sanitation, drinking water, etc. So because of all these issues, these tribals often migrate to peri-urban areas, leaving their productive assets behind unutilized. So in order to address these issues, to bring about a holistic development for tribal areas, NABARD constituted the Tribal Development Fund in 2003-04. These the tribal development program, it basically adopts what is known as a Wadi model, that is a small orchard, 1 to 2 acre farm model. We'll see in the coming slides what it is all about. This also is being implemented by NGOs, state governments, KVKs, and corporates. All these entities are eligible for support under our TDF projects. Why TDF? We already seen the reason. As on 31st March 2021, we have sanctioned TDF projects in 29 states and UTs, covering 5.33 lakh acres. Around 5.6 tribal families have been covered so far, and 2,378 crore have been sanctioned for 835 projects. Now, as we saw earlier, at the core of TDF projects is what is known as the Wadi. The Wadi. The Wadi is nothing but an orchard of around 1 to 2 acres, where uh, uh, along the border of this wadi, forest plants will be planted, and within the wadi, fruit producing trees like mango, fruit yielding trees like mango, guava, cashew, which can bring in good remuneration to the farmers will be encouraged. Planting of such plants will be encouraged. In addition to, there is also provision for intercropping with short duration crops, so that income both in the short term as well as in the long term. This fruit crops have a long gestation period, so there have to be there has to be some risk proofing in the short term. That is why intercropping is also taken up during this. I mean, in this body. In addition to this, other livelihood activities such as dairy, goatry, etc., are also taken up as a part of this tribal development program. As we have seen earlier in WDF, here again, this soil conservation, water conservation, such activities are also promoted. Women development is also one key component of tribal development projects, because women, unless women are empowered and they have good health, we cannot, I mean, they cannot contribute effectively to the community, to not only to the family, but also to the community as a whole. So women health issues, women issues are given focus under this TDF project. Landless, even though Wadi is concentrating on people or families with land, landless people living in those areas, tribals living in those areas, are also assisted under these projects. We also provide marketing support in the form of rural hut and rural mart for all those producers which are produced in their Wadi as a part of their or rather as a by the tribal community, as a part of their tribal craft and tribal art. They have a lot of produce. They also produce honey, then this lac, as a part of the this minor, what we call as minor forest produce. These are non-Wadi products. To sell these products or market these products, we support them with marketing facilities like rural hut and rural. So this we saw earlier, we discussed earlier, and that is the focus of Wadi will be small orchards. They provide a staggered income. The basic approach in Wadi, sorry, in watershed development, it was land holding, or the land which was the land parcels was the basic unit for treatment, whereas in Wadi, it follows a family-based approach. Each tribal family will be supported with a certain amount of fund for taking up this Wadi-based or non-farm sector activities. Here again, community ownership of assets created is stressed upon once NABARD and the PIA, that is Project Implementing Agency, exits from the project area. These are the project components. One is orchard development. Then we have soil conservation in the Wadi, water resource management, sustainable agriculture, human resource development, women development, means drudgery reduction measures, on-farm and off-farm income generation activities, promotion of self-help groups, etc. Micro enterprises for landless people, that is based on the tribal arts, tribal crafts, forest produce, etc. These people will be encouraged to set up micro enterprises, leveraging these skills. And processing and marketing support, we saw earlier how rural hut and rural mart are set up, are provided, assistance is provided to market their produce. So it is a holistic approach wherein these tribal families are assisted in livelihood activities, in health-related aspect, in family health, and where these produce by these communities are marketed. I mean, provision for marketing these produce is also given to these families in the form of rural hut and rural mart. So the entire backward forward linkage is being taken care under this project. See, this is the whole project components. This is a pictorial depiction of Tribal Development Fund. We have discussed this earlier. These projects, as we saw earlier, it is based, a family-oriented approach is adopted for Tribal Development Fund. Normally 200 to 500 families are selected. These tribals owning land, a family should own at least 5 acres of land to be considered under this project. Out of this 5 acres, at least 1 acre should be treatable, means it should be able to be taken under a wadi approach. Normally a cluster approach is chosen. That means contiguous villages where these tribal families are concentrated will be taken up so that monitoring and implementation will be easy. Usually villages or blocks where tribal population is more than 50% is taken up. Landless families living in this area also will be taken up to the extent of 20% of the total families to be covered under the project. Even backward class families also will be considered up to 10% of the total families to be covered. Per family, per acre grant support is up to 67,000 in plain areas and 72,000 in difficult northeastern or hilly areas. The project duration is 6 years. Again, we have seen these are the activities, we have discussed this earlier, this slide. The core unit, as we have seen, is family. And the community participation is also stressed up. That is collectivization of this community. These individual members of from each family will come together to form what is known as participant groups, which consist of around 10 to 12 members. These participant groups then federate into village planning committees, represented by one member from each participant group, chosen by consensus. This village planning committee should consist of at least 30% women. They will be responsible for maintaining assets, common assets or bodies created under the projects. This village planning committees of 10 to 12 villages in a block, they federate into what is known as a project level tribal development committee, which again has 10 to 12 members. This project level tribal development committee, then they will be facilitated to graduate into collectives like FPOs, farmers interest groups, etc., or cooperatives, etc. There will be monitoring structures created at various levels to oversee implementation. Normally, the project monitoring and implementation committee consisting of NABARD representatives, people in the project area, then representatives from state government, tribal development, department of tribal welfare, etc., will also be members. And to draw support from NABARD, this project implementing agency has to submit a proposal along with a detailed DPR in prescribed format to NABARD. Next is NABARD support for FPO, that is Farmer Producer Organization. We have seen earlier that the farmers, basic issue of farmers is that they have their land holding is fragmented. The average size is only 1.1 hectare. It is also, some studies have revealed that out of 100 rupees paid at the end of the sales chain, by the ultimate beneficiary, only less than 30 rupees reach the farmer. The remaining part of the value is eaten up by middlemen and traders, etc. So the basic issue is that another issue is that farmers often resort to distress selling because there is no adequate quality storage facilities available to them. They do not get adequate finance from the bank, so they have to approach money lenders, which again leads to often suicide and all such issues. This lack of storage facilities also leads to distress selling by the farmers. So they are not able to realize the actual desired price for their produce. So these facilities, these drawbacks affects the farmers as a whole. So the formation of FPO, Farmers Collective, is designed as a kind of it has been thought of as a measure to overcome all these issues which has been discussed here. FPOs are nothing but farmer producer organizations, which are legal entities. They deal with primary produce. They are entities formed by the farmers, of the farmers, and for the farmers. Membership to an FPO is voluntary. They can take up any activity in the agri value chain, starting from inputs, agri inputs, to farming, to farm gate, farm mechanization, to transportation of farmers' produce, to supply chain activities, marketing, packaging, primary level, secondary, primary, secondary level processing, anything, virtually any activity in the agri value chain can be taken up by these FPOs. Normally, the FPOs are either registered under Cooperative Societies Act or under the Companies Act 2013, Part 9A of the Companies Act, under Section, I think, 465 of the Companies Act. Basically, NABARD promoted FPOs are normally registered under Companies Act because if we register it under the Cooperative Societies Act, there could be, what you call intervention from the state government through the offices of Registrar of Cooperative Societies, all those things. Whereas if it is registered under ROC, that is Registrar of Companies, you only have to give them periodical statements and MIS and compliances. There will be no intervention from anyone. You have absolute freedom to operate within the rules and regulations. They follow one member, one vote pattern. Whatever be the number of shares held by a farmer, he will have only one vote. Means it is FPO is nothing but a combination of both corporate principle as well as cooperative principle. Cooperatives normally follow this principle of one member, one vote. The equity shares subscribed to by the members are not tradable. They cannot be transferred also, and whatever profit these people generate, these FPOs generate, it will have to be plowed back into the company for their further use. These are some of the activities which FPOs can take up: procurement of inputs, aggregation of storage. We saw that entire value chain essentially can be taken up under by an FPO. NABARD has got a dedicated fund called PODF, Producers Organization Development Fund, which was set up in 2011 to support FPOs. Any agency can promote an FPO. It can an NGO, a KVK, a society, a PACS. Anybody virtually can set up FPOs. The agency which promotes or handholds these FPOs are known as POs. That is PO promoting, that is Producers Organization Promoting Institution, or in acronym used is POPI. As we discussed earlier, NGOs, trust, state departments, KVKs, farmer means KVKs, any research institutions can function as copies in promoting FPOs. Then we have what is known as research support agencies. Normally, the state agricultural universities or research institutions like ICAR institutions, CARI institutions like CARI, KVKs, etc. normally function as resource support agencies. They offer technological and knowledge-based solutions to these copies. Advisories, help them in handholding these FPOs, help them in resolving issues related to their business planning, etc. So these are the three structures involved in FPO, in promotion of FPO. That is copy, then RSA, resource support agency, and the PO themselves, FPO themselves. The role of POPI. These POPIs, they identify the potential pockets or clusters for forming POs. They conduct diagnostic study, feasibility study, and baseline surveys. Diagnostic study is conducted to assess gap in, to assess existing potential, to assess the infrastructure gap, if any, and how to, and also to suggest ways and means to bridge this gap. Feasibility study is conducted to assess whether this FPO in that particular given area, is it feasible, economically viable, technologically feasible, because that is very important. Unless it is not, unless feasibility and viability is proven, there is no point in taking up such project. Then baseline surveys are conducted to assess as to how many families, farmers will be willing to join this FPO. Initially, these poppies, they will conduct awareness creation among the farmers in the identified location. They have to motivate the farmers and also mobilize them to join the FPOs. These poppies also facilitate registration with ROC, that is Registrar of Companies, or RCS if they are registered as a cooperative. They are also tasked with the preparation of business plan. At least 3 to 5 years business plan has to be prepared by the poppy. They also have to train board members of FPO, the CEO of FPO. They have to help the FPO in obtaining approvals, permission, all statutory permissions and approvals from various state government or Panchayati Raj institutions. Then they will have to help them in getting bank credit for their working capital needs as well as term loan requirements. Also, they have to help them in getting market linkages, in establishing market linkages. So originally the aim of our PODF fund was to promote at least 3,000 new FPOs. The duration of the project, duration of one FPO project is for a period of 3 years, which can be extended further to 2 more years, so as to ensure handholding, proper handholding. The grant support involves around 11.44 lakh for a period of 3 years, and for the next 2 years 5.16 lakhs. So this grant support is meant both for the FPO as well as for the POPI. The POPI will get over a period of 5 years around 5 lakhs towards their administrative cost. In addition to this, there is a business development assistance. It's a one-time grant support for creation of market linkages. There is another fund called Produce Fund, which we saw earlier. This was set up by Government of India earlier with a corpus of 200 crores for creating around 200 FPOs. But now this has been sort of replaced by the new scheme, the central sector scheme for promoting 10,000 FPOs. This is the type of support which is provided to the FPO under PODF. For registration, 40,000 rupees. The CEO, the FPO, typical FPO organizational structure will be like this. They have the members who are subscribed to equity at the bottom. Then you have the staff of the FPO who will be looking after the day-to-day administration. This is headed by the CEO. Then the CEO will be reporting to a board, and the board will be reporting to the general body. This is a typical structure, pyramidal structure of an FPO. Now, the CEO will be, the remuneration of the CEO will also be provided for the first for the 5 years on a tapering basis. Then the agency will be supported with 20,000 rupees for business plan, for conduct of members awareness programs, training of board members. This will be continuing for all the 5 years. CEO will be given training for all the 5 years. Then the POPI will be given incentive of 1 lakh each for all the 5 years. In addition to this, you have that they will be given business development assistance also. So the entire assistance during over the period of 5 years will be around 21.6 lakhs. Now, the central sector scheme for promotion and nurturing of FPOs. Government of India had announced a scheme for promotion of around 10,000 FPOs in February 2020. It has identified 3 agencies for as implementing agencies. One is NABARD, one is SFAC, and the other one is NCDC. So on an average, 2 FPOs will have to be formed in 5,000 blocks identified out of the total 7,000 blocks in the country. Bird Lucknow, a subsidiary sister concern of NABARD, is the nodal training institute for training all the stakeholders under this program. This at the grassroots level, these FPOs are formed by what is known as CBBO, cluster-based business organization. These are nothing but a form of POPI only. They are the grassroots level implementing agencies. They work under and on behalf of the implementing agencies like NABARD. Support rupees 25 lakh for CBBO per FPO and 18 lakh for FPO. So this is the total support will be for around 43 lakhs for one FPO. In addition to this, here again, the support for CBBO involves the support for setting up of their office, handholding for 5 years, administrative cost for training, cost for registration of FPOs, all such activities which we saw in the case of POPI. Then in the case of FPO, it involves, here not only CEO, but also an accountant also can be appointed. The CEO will be given salary, can be given salary of 25,000 per month, and the accountant around 10,000. In addition to this, training can be provided. There is provision for training to board members, to members, to other stakeholders also. Then cost of hiring premises if required, cost of hiring, cost of acquiring equipments like computers, PCs, and other machinery or equipment which is essential for successful completion or performance of the FPO. So Government of India will also provide a matching grant up to rupees 2,000 per member. That is, matching grant means if the member's equity is say 1,000 rupees, then government will put in 1,000 rupees. But there is a cap if a member's contribution is more than 2,000, government support will be capped at 2,000 rupees only. The maximum an FPO can get as equity grant, matching grant is rupees 15 lakhs, irrespective of the number of members or share subscription. As on date, around 1,019 FPOs have been sanctioned and 645 have been registered. This is only NABARD's promoted FPOs. NCDC is promoting, SFAC is also promoting, plus Some state government agencies are also promoting FPOs under this program. In addition to this, government has set up a credit guarantee fund of 1,000 crore. The total credit guarantee fund corpus is 1,500 crore. But out of this 1,500, 1,000 crore credit guarantee fund will be is constituted in NABARD, and the remaining 500 crore with NCD. Why credit guarantee fund? Because earlier the problem with FPOs was that they were not getting loans from banks for their working capital or capital requirements, because they did not have any collateral to offer. Now, with the introduction of credit guarantee fund, they can source loan credit from any bank. We will see how this credit guarantee fund is operating later. So in this, there are essentially three agencies. One is the NPMA, National Project Management Agency. This is set up by SFAC. It will have a team of team of people having specialization in 5 categories: agri, horticulture, marketing and processing, incubation services providing, law and accounting, IT and MIS. This NPMA is essentially the body which has the power to refine policies, guidelines relating to FPOs. They oversee the performance of implementing agencies and CBBOs. Essentially, they are the policy making, advocacy making body under this project. They also NPMA also has set up a integrated portal for managing MIS under this scheme. As we saw earlier, implementing agencies are NABARD, SFAC, NCDC, and state government agencies. The cluster CBBOs, which are the grassroots level implementing agencies, they also need to be, there are certain criteria for qualifying for any agency to qualify as a CBBO. CBBOs can be NGOs, CBBOs can be even corporates also. KVKs, corporate, state agricultural university, almost anybody can become a CBBO. Only condition is that they should have these 5 category specialists. One is specialist in crop husbandry, agri marketing, value addition and processing, in social mobilization, in law and accounts, IT and MIS. So under Government of India program, the minimum membership for membership in an FPO is 300 in plain area and 100 in northeast and hilly areas. So they can be registered under Companies Act or State Cooperative Societies Act. 15% of the targeted FPO should be in aspirational districts. That means around 1,500 FPOs should be in the aspirational districts out of the 10,000. The scheme is expected to leverage on the concept of one district, one product, which is being implemented by state governments and promoted by Government of India. Then okay. And normally, this central sector FPOs are they can form. They are dealing with only agri produce. I mean, they cannot deal in animal husbandry or fisheries or any other activity. Only agri horti produce is covered under central sector scheme. This is just a data of FPOs promoted under PODF and Produce Fund of NABARD. Total around 5,000 FPOs have been formed, out of which 3,721 have been registered. Number of farmers covered is around 13.8 lakhs. Share capital collected is around 143 crores. Around 1,442 POPIs, that is promoting institutions, are involved in this project, and around 32 RSAs are also collaborating with this project. This does not have the This data does not cover the central sector project FPOs. So credit guarantee fund we were discussing. Under this, all loans up to 2 lakhs. See, the loans are given by banks to FPOs. Banks, cooperative banks, public sector banks, RRBs, NBFCs, anybody can give a loan to FPOs. The banks are not willing to give loan to FPOs because they don't have sufficient collateral. So this credit guarantee fund has been set up to cover risk posed to these banks. Loans up to 2 crores will be covered under credit guarantee fund. If the loan is up to rupees 1 crore, then 85% of the loan outstanding will be covered under this guarantee. And if the loan is between, say, is between 1 to 2 crores, then 75% will be covered. So in all, for loans up to 2 crore, 150 crore will be covered as credit guarantee cover. That means if a FPO defaults and if they are not in a position to pay back the loan, 150 crore will be made good by this credit guarantee fund. So there is no risk involved, or the risk involved is very less for the banks. They can go ahead and support FPOs without any collateral or security. So this is all about FPOs. Now we will see NABARD engagement with climate change projects. Climate change is one of the hot topics being discussed in nowadays. Climate change, when we say climate change, is essentially deals with increase in temperature, rising sea levels, extreme climate occurrences like dry spells, droughts, unseasonal rains, shifting wildlife, all these things contribute to climate change patterns. Climate change is essentially due to global warming. Global warming is essentially due to emission of greenhouse gases. India is one of the most vulnerable countries, one of the most vulnerable nations, vulnerable to climate change and its impact. Within our country, agriculture or farmers is one of the community which is most vulnerable to impact of climate change. Few reasons are: one, our agriculture is mostly dependent upon rainfed. We have a long coastline, so this long coastline exposes inhabitants along the coastline to coastal floods, sea surges, and such kind of activities. Then livelihood of because of increasing temperature and other aspects, it often leads to decrease or decline in agricultural livestock productivity. So livelihood of the people also gets affected, which in turn affects food security. It is estimated that crop yield will be reduced to the extent of 1.5%. I mean, the impact on GDP will be to the extent of 1.5%. The climate change impact on crop yield. We saw these things earlier. Now, India is, as we have discussed, seventh most vulnerable country to climate change impact. It is ranked 3 after China and US in the highest number of natural disasters over the last 20 years. We see frequent occurrences of flood, storms, heat waves, droughts, etc. It is estimated that around $80 billion losses have been afflicted by our country due to climate-related disasters during the last 20 years. So you see the whole picture. I mean, the big picture affecting not only our community or families, but the entire nation and the entire economy as a whole. Now, where does NABARD come in? NABARD is again addressing the issues posed by climate change in a big way. It is the implementing agency for climate adaptation fund. See, as we have seen earlier, there are a few multilateral agencies which support climate adaptation and mitigation measures. When we say climate adaptation, it means ways and means which can lessen the impact, present and future impact of climate change. For example, if there is a flooding, we adapt to that flooding by shifting our residents to some other area. Similarly, agriculture, we adapt by we adapt to drought situations by preserving water using technology like drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, wherein water usage is optimized. So these are adaptation measures. Mitigation measures means those measures which are aimed at decreasing the emission levels. For example, we reduce the usage of fossil fuel vehicles. We replace fossil fuel vehicles with electric or solar powered vehicles. So these are all mitigation measures. So there are agencies which support both mitigation and adaptation at the international level. At the international scale, there is adaptation fund and the Green Climate Fund. Set up under the aegis of United Nations framework for climate change. Then in India, we have National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change set up by Government of India. These funds support various adaptation measures. And NABARD is the national implementing entity for Adaptation Fund and Climate Change Fund. And it is a direct access entity for Green Climate Fund. Means NABARD is authorized to submit proposals directly to Green Climate Fund without going through governmental levels also. The role of NABARD in climate change project. See, we try to create awareness about impact of climate change upon stakeholders, especially government departments, various government departments, Department of Agriculture, Transportation, Department of Public Works Department, Department of Water Resources Development, all such departments which have a bearing on the climate related aspects. So these people are sensitized to the issues of climate change, so that they can submit suitable proposals to NABARD. Initially, they have to submit what is called as project concept notes, wherein the issues and probable solutions will be detailed. These PCNs will be scrutinized by NABARD, and if improvements, if any, will be done. And based on this PCNs, the state government, concerned department of the state government, normally the concerned departments route these PCNs and DPRs through a nodal agency. Nodal agency in all the state governments is usually the Department of Science and Technology for climate change projects. So they submits DPRs through this nodal agency to NABARD. NABARD in turn submits these DPRs and applications to either Adaptation Fund Board or to Government of India Ministry of Environment and Forest in case fund is sourced from NAFCC, or to the Green Climate Fund if the fund is sourced from GF. So once NABARD is also the program, and NABARD is not just the entity which forwards application. It also oversees the entire project management, monitoring, and evaluation. Also disburses grants under this this climate change projects. We have our own fund called Climate Change Fund, which that's a small fund with a corpus of around, I think, 5 to 10 crores, basically aimed at creating awareness among various stakeholders. These multilateral funds like NAFCC or AFB, they offer a large-scale support. For example, under NAFCC, each state can get up to 25 crore for one project. In case of multilateral funding, the amount involved can be much higher also. This is a process flow for AFB and Green Climate Fund, we just discussed in the earlier slide. The difference here is that in case of normally in case of AFB and GCF, the entire process of starting from PCN to sanction of the project, it takes minimum of at least 1 to 2 years. Whereas in case of NAFCC, it takes just around 6 months to 1 year. Under Adaptation Fund, NABARD has so far supported 6 projects with a total outlay of US $9.8 million, benefiting around 57,802 vulnerable people. They are being implemented in West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, and Rajasthan. Under GCF, NABARD is eligible to submit projects with outlay of more than 250 million. 2 proposals submitted by NABARD worth $416.3 million US have been sanctioned by GCF so far. Under NAFCC, around 30 projects with grant support of 847 crore in 25 states is progressing. Here, the major area covered is water management, agriculture, livestock, coastal and forest ecosystems management, etc. We saw that NABARD has its own fund called Climate Change Fund (CCF), set up in 2015-16 with a corpus of 5 crore. Here, it is essentially for creation of awareness, documentation of best practices, promoting startups in area of climate change, conduct of workshops, capacity building of stakeholders, policy advocacy, etc. These are the impact areas of climate change activities of or climate change projects of NABARD. That is climate smart villages or climate smart agriculture, soil and water conservation, renewable energy. Renewable energy, we say solar energy, wind energy, etc. That is non-conventional energy generation. Then sustainable livelihood activities, forest biodiversity, land degradation management, livestock and fisheries management, etc. These are some of the projects implemented by NABARD under Adaptation Fund. Climate proofing of watershed in Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan, climate smart agriculture for sustainable livelihood in Arunachal Pradesh, in Uttarakhand, the Himalayan areas, enhancing adaptive capacity of small and marginal farmers in West Bengal, coastal resource conservation for climate adaptation in Andhra Pradesh, climate proofing of watersheds in Tamil Nadu, then building adaptive capacity of small inland fishermen in Madhya Pradesh. These are some of the projects under Adaptation Fund. This is projects supported under NAFCC. There are a large number of projects, almost in all the states, 25 out of 31 states, these projects supported. Are undergoing. Then we have projects supported under Green Climate Fund. That is one of the projects are in Orissa and the other one is in Maharashtra. I think that slide is not here. This has been missed out. So these are the climate change projects undertaken by NABARD. So this is in brief all about NABARD support for from farm sector. In case you have any questions, and in case I know them, I will clarify it now. Otherwise, I can get the requisite clarification from my peers or from other documents and come back to you. So in case you have any doubts, kindly ask me. Thank you.
Thank you.